Hello, hello. Can everyone hear me okay? We good on, yeah? All right, cool. All right. Um, so it's gonna get loud in my apartment real soon, possibly. They're a little late. Yeah, okay, just as I said it. So we'll let that calm down just a little bit. But today's gonna be pretty standard from what we've been doing before. We're gonna do some warm-ups. We'll do some practice cutting, some practice thrusts, and then we will do some kata, I guess some longsword kata or longsword forms. Um, I guess while we're waiting just for everything, for more people to kind of sign in, um, let's see. Today we're going to, during the lesson part, we're going to do a little bit of footwork practice, kind of like we did the other week. With Fluke, and then we're going to then take a look at um, learning some basic, like I said, some basic forms. One of the things that I really like about the forms we're going to go over today is the fact that they work their way up to being paired drills. So you learn both part A, which is the feeder part, and the part B, which is the player part. And then eventually you can kind of combine them into collective practice, group practice, or paired practice, I should say. All right, I think we're in the clear. It was pretty light today. It's Friday, and I think everyone just wants to get to the drinking and getting out of townness. How are we doing on? All right, we got a few people here. That's good. Um, yeah, all right. So everyone, just for today's class, we're just gonna need some type of like longsword trainer for our practice cuts and such. Hooray. Uh, all right, let's do some quick warm-ups. All right, so everyone put down your trainer, give just a little bit of space, and we'll start stretching. All right, and so the first stretch is we're going to move our arms way back, open up the chest, stretch even further back, and then arms down. All right, we're going to do an 8 count of this. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When you do this, you really want to feel that, a little bit of stretch in the arms, but mostly here, right? And a little bit here. Next, we're going to kind of do this butterfly arm motion, right? Again, it's kind of focusing on opening up the chest, and also opening and kind of one thing that at least I personally get out of this is kind of my back here. It all kind of loosens up a little bit, makes it easier for that repetitive sword swinging. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to do big circles. So similar motion. We're going to do forward and then back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One of the benefits of having the microphone right here, you're going to hear everything crack. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, okay. There we go. All right. Now we're going to reach all the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then lean back. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, what we're going to do is make a big circle. Start here. And we're going to move to our left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then now back. Stretch out. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Back the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, okay. So now we're going to do an arm stretch. All right. So we're going to start here. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, now we're going to do jumping jacks. And the jumping jacks are, the first 4 are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so let's do it again. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Probably my neighbors are super fans of me right now. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going keep your feet just about 1 fist apart. Keep your back straight. Come down into sumo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now, put your feet in kind of like an inverted T here. Move down to your left side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now switch feet positions. Switch to your right. 5, 6, 7, 8. And back. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, real deep. So stretching out this here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch sides. 5, 6, 7, 8. And back. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Bring your feet together. We're going to move our knees in a clockwise pattern for the first 4, and then counterclockwise for the second. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and back. 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. And this next one, you want to have your left leg back and very straight. You want to be getting a little bit of tension, a little bit of stretch out of that. And at the same time, you're also going to be stretching your arm and your wrist. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Switch sides. Make sure you get a little bit of stretch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So now grab your sword-like object. You're going to do some warm-up cuts. All right. And so what we're going to do is begin, depending on your what you have for space, begin in the high Vomtag, or if you want to follow along with Messer, you can be in the high Lugensland. Okay. Let's see. And going to cut from high Vomtag to Einhorn. All right. Und 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, still in the high Vomtag, and we are going to cut to long point. Und 1, 2, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Okay, back into the high bomb tog, and from here we're going to cut all the way to Alber. Okay? Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right, a couple of things for self-check here on any of these three kind of these Oberhaus, these vertical Oberhaus. Making sure that the most importantly that you're not leading with your hands, that the cuts don't start such and then come forward. Right, so kind of like a couple weeks ago, we talked about breaking down our Oberhaus into kind of sequential parts and then following, kind of practicing through with those actions. So to really break down the vertical Oberhau, you start here, sword comes out and down, right? The other thing, practicing those actions are going to let you do, it's going to help you practice your grip work, and it's also going to help you maintain your grip. One of the things that a lot of folks have asked me about, how do I increase my grip strength or improve my grip on the sword? And this is kind of part of it, making sure, because when we kind of just do the cut, if we go through it too fast, our grips get a little fudgy. But if we're able to break it down, 1, 2, 3, it's a lot easier to self-check, right? We know that keeping our hand behind the sword, making sure that grip is nice and strong, especially with the offhand, can be difficult, right? And another thing to do is also another way to work on a really good working on good grip strength is when you return to the lega, is treating it almost like a cut itself. Okay, like a nice, not rushing, but at the same time, a nice forceful cut, making sure your grip is consistent all the way through. All right. Another little thing for self-check: just watch the forward leaning and foot placement, etc. Okay, let's go back to the high Vomtag, and we're going to cut right Oberhau. So remember, get your sword out, cut through, and then return. Making sure we're getting that full power throughout the entire cut. Okay, so in the high Vomtag, und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Sehr gut. Okay. Switch your feet. We're going to do the same thing with our left foot forward, and we're going to strike left Oberhau. Okay? Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right, sehr gut. Now we're going to continue from the Vomtag cutting that Oberhau. And then what we're going to do is then we're going to change our grips to Nebenhut. And sorry, getting boop, and cut Unterhau. Okay. So, all right, from the High Von Tag. Again, big self-check thing here, and I know I bring this up every week. It's because it's something I'm working on, and if I'm working on it, you will have to suffer with me, okay? Once we're in this Alber position, we don't want to, it's making sure the correction is making sure that we're not blending the end of our cut into the Alber, all right, or from the Alber into the Neben. We want to make sure that the sword has passed through target and then is coming in and cutting up, all right? So just be mindful. Und, eins, und, zwei, und, drei, und, vier, und, fünf, und, sechs, und, sieben, und, acht, und, neun, und, zehn, und. All right, switch your feet. Same thing, other side. Und eins, und zwei, und drei, und vier, und fünf, und sechs, und sieben, und acht, und neun, und 10, und. All right. Who has room to do Mittelhau? Does anyone not have space to do Mittelhau? Oh, all right. Rock and roll. Try not to break anything. Okay. So assume the middle hut, or I guess something close. We'll never truly know what middle hut is, I guess. Okay. And so we're going to do 5, beginning on the left, going to right, and then we're going to switch sides. All right. Und eins, und reset. Zwei, und drei, und vier, und fünf, und. All right, switch sides. So now we're going to go right to left and back. Eins, und zwei, und drei, und vier, und fünf, und. Okay, so now what we usually do is we're going to go, as we usually do, let's go into ox on the right-hand side. And what we're going to do is if you have space, feel free to take that step and cut Oberhau, all right? Focus on getting that 45-degree angle here. If you do not have that space to take that step, that's okay too. Just make sure your right foot is forward, even though you're in the right ox, and cut. All right? Reset to right ox. And Eins. Zwei. Drei. Vier. Fünf. Sechs. Sieben. Acht. Neun. 10. Okay, sehr gut. Okay, into the right neighborhood. You're going to step, strike Oberhau. If you don't have the space, that's okay. Just make sure that that right foot is forward and cut Oberhau from below. All right? And eins. Zwei. Drei. Vier. Fünf. Sechs. Sieben. Acht. Neun. 10. Okay. Now switch sides. We're going to move to our left ox. And we're going to, same thing. If you have space, take the step. If not, just make sure that you're doing the cut with your left foot forward. Okay? 1. Eins. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. Okay. Now we're going to, from the neighborhood, we're going to step and strike Oberhau. If you don't have a space, just make sure that left foot's forward and do it from the neighborhood. Do the Oberhau from neighborhood. All right. Eins. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. All right. Now, I actually want to do, before we start doing some of the thrusts, I actually want to add a new little practice cut. It's something that is not always, it's a cut that's not always talked about, but I know it is in the sources, both German and Italian, and English and French and Spanish. What I like to do is, so there's 3 cuts we're going to add, all right? So what I want everyone to do is put your right foot forward, normal stance. I want you to go to Alber, right? Alber with your long edge, that is the sharp edge, facing down. And what I'd like you to do is we're going to cut that horizontal, that Oberhau, that oblique Oberhau, but it's going to be with the short edge. All right? So the idea is you still want it to go up in that 45 degrees, that angle. But again, your right foot's forward. Sword is an Alber on the left. We're going to cut with the short edge. All right, so we're going to do 10 of these. All right? And eins. Reset. 2. drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Okay, switch your feet. So left foot is now forward. We're going to begin an Alber on the right. We're going to cut with the short edge from Alber to, I guess, Einhorn. All right. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Okay. So now everyone put your right foot forward. We're going to return. We're going to go to Alber here. All right. What I want everyone to do is practice from here. I want everyone just practice cutting to long point. All right. We're going to do 10 of these. Now it's not just placing at the long point, cutting to long point. All right. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to cut from Alber. We're going to cut all the way to Vomtok. Okay? Und again, with the short edge. Eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Good. Okay. So good. All right. Something we're going to add in. A, because it gets us more practice cuts in, but also because I think those are good cuts to know. All right. So now, everyone into the right flug. We're going to thrust to left ox. A couple gotchas is making sure, for those who have cross guards on the devices you're using, making sure that your cross guards aren't going too insane, that they're still protective of your hands. And also, when you're taking the step, making sure, let's see if I can get my feet in frame. When we're doing these types of thrusts, it is always good to make sure that we are not stepping too deep, right? As folks know, I'm not a big advocate of the lunge, but so I always like to teach structured steps in which like the back heel does not necessarily cross too far beyond your toes, all right? All right, so just a few things to think about while we're practicing, all right? So into flug on your right, thrusting to ox on your left with a step if you can. Eins, zwei, drei, vier, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, good. Moving to Flug on the left. We're going to thrust to Ox on the right. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sehr gut. Okay, now we're going to put our right foot forward. We're going to be in long point. We're going to thrust and retract retract. Now, as I always say, it's about 30% in, 70% out, based on because of thrusting mechanics. So think of for those who have tried thrusting into tatami, how difficult it is. Like, well, it goes in relatively easy, and pulling out it gets stuck really easily. So it's something. Always think 70% out, and try to use your core and hips as much as possible when doing these things. Doing the thrusting. It's not all with the arms. Making sure one thing we don't want to do when we thrust, and this is a common thing that folks do, don't do this. Bad, because it's hyperextending this, and that's not a good thing. What we want to make sure is that we're here, especially for this thrust. You want to imagine that it's going in here, right? Or is either thrusting for here or any of the soft bits kind of in that aren't the rib cage. If you have a sword, I always kind of recommend thrusting flat, as I mean, kind of horizontally, so that way if you would miss, it would theoretically maybe have a better chance of sliding in between the ribs instead of kind of getting stuck or like the bone preventing it from going in. So when we thrust, it's not, don't think up, right? Because if I was to do that here in that kind of natural up motion, look how high, like if I'm trying to thrust the camera because it's about throat level for me, if I try to thrust high, completely misses. It might go for the face, but there's a lot of bone and like, unless you get really lucky and go in an eye, it's not going to do you a lot of good, right? So when we do this thrust, bam, think straight forward more than up, okay? Little things that have been nitpicked on me during my training this past 2 weeks. So learn from my mistakes. All right, let's do some thrusts. Okay. Und 1 und 2 und 3 und 4 und 5 und 6 und 7 und 8 und 9 und 10 und okay. All right. Everyone, quick water break. Grab some water. I know it's like 1,000,000 degrees in my apartment today. I really need to invest in a fan or an air conditioner or something soon. So quick water break. I will join you in that. Okay. Is everyone hydrated? A little bit of water. All right. So I want to just quickly review what we did the other week because it's all going to kind of play into. Let me just grab my boken here because it is a more sword-shaped object for me to do some of this with. Okay. So one of the things we talked about last week was kind of a new resting position. All right, a resting position that is very helpful. In fact, some of the manuals even refer to it as position that is comfortable to hold your sword when you're waiting around to fight. It's basically right hand on the sword, tip down on the ground, tip towards the ground, and you're just kind of chilling out. And the attention version of this is just basically coming to attention, feet shoulder width apart, chin slightly up, chest out, swords here. All right. And so for folks that were here a couple of weeks ago, we went over the salute for the forms, the kata, so to speak, that we've been doing. So I just want to review that real quick. So from this resting position, we want to salute into then what we call the first position. The first position is after you've saluted, it's coming out as such. All right. Basically, it should be slightly uncomfortable. Arm should be pretty straight. The tip of the sword should be just in front of your toe, kind of like lined up with your toe, but out. It is really hard to sew with this camera. I'll see if next time I can get like another camera rigged up, right? Like, so out as such, right? And then from here, what we do is bring it to scabbards, as they call it. They call it from scabbards, even though we're not currently using them, or at least in this class. We do en messer. So from here, you bring the sword out, bring the other hand to it. All right. So one little thing that I forgot there, I apologize. That's all. I'm still kind of taking it all too. Resting position, your feet are together. No feet are forward, and the foot comes forward as you bring the other hand out. So let's do this a few times together, and then we'll start going over a couple drills. Right. So from the resting position, call to attention, salute, into the first position, to scabbards, to long point. At this point, your right foot should be forward, regardless of what hand your dominant hand is, but your right foot should be forward, and you should be staying in the long point. All right, good. Let's reset. All right, from resting position, first position, to long point. Scabbards to long point. Yeah, see, forgot the scabbards. Very important part. Let's do it one more time because I messed up. Y'all can yell at me later. All right, reset to resting position. Salute to first position. To scabbards. To long point. All right, one more time. Resting position. Salute. First position. Scabbards. To long point. Yeah, prima, sehr gut. Okay. So, and this is going to be something that we do in all of basically in between before each engagement, kind of like it's a more formal saluting system. Okay, so what we're going to do is quickly review the Flug drill for folks who were not here last week. Basically, it was you want to give yourself just a little bit of space because it's essentially a winding drill. Many of you are familiar from this from class. We begin in the resting position, but here what we're doing is making sure that we're incorporating all the things that we're going through. So we begin in the resting position, salute into first, into scabbards, into long point. And what we're going to do is just practice the drill that we were doing before was just practicing moving, winding between this left flug this right flug with traversing steps, moving forward, making sure our backs are straight, our chins are slightly raised. All right, and when we run out of space, we regress. All right, making sure, think about where the weight is on your legs. It should always be about 70-30. All right. For more advanced students, with flug, it's a lot easier than say ox, but trying to keep that tip as centered as possible, right? Think about cone of defense we're creating here, right? Because when we ward using flug, it's out. It can be out or from here up, right? Same drill, the same drill that we did, a similar drill that we did, same thing, begin, salute, first, but then we'd move to ox, and we'd practice moving between the ox. And part of the secret of moving in between ox is making sure that you are always kind of moving the sword forward, because it helps your arms move, helps the arms move around each other. Yeah, you're crossing and uncrossing your arms. And even when you're moving backwards, like I said, I always find it helpful to kind of extend the tip forward, because if you're moving backwards, it's probably because your opponent is moving towards you, and just give them a little warning, right? And then we did another version of the same drill where we began, and we practiced moving between all the different, kind of practicing noble war almost, right? Kind of practice winding in between all the positions, and at random, right? So those are 3 really good drills that you can do if by yourself at home, if you have a little bit of space. I don't have that much space to do that. Also, it's something that if you have a safe trainer to go to the park with, it is something that you can go to the park with and do very, very easily and practice solo. So now, yeah, and then just like a little kind of hint for folks who go to the park, I've personally found that if you are wearing something that looks like a martial arts uniform, or like really or gym clothes, you're more likely to be left alone than if you wear camouflage and BDU pants or something. It's been also metal swords, like fetters, are usually okay, especially because you can prove that they're not sharp. What I've done a couple times is made a perimeter around where I'm working, and so like with like little cones or something, or just stuff that I brought with me, so that people don't wander in. Yeah, so that's a helpful hint there. So let me just grab my notes here so that we do this correctly. Okay. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to go over today, we did cutting. That's good, good, good. So, all right. So this is like from the first drill set. It's a very simple parry riposte kind of drill set. And I quite like it because it is, again, it's training very simple things, but it's also, though it seems very simple, it is always trying to reinforce basic skills. And so the first lesson, so this is the first lesson of the first drill set, okay? These are usually, like I said, they are kind of something that we are building up to doing as partner drills. But since we don't really have that option, we can still learn them as individual form drills, and we can kind of work on the mechanics of the individual parts. So for lesson 1, we're going to learn the feeder parts first, okay? So the feeder is the person who is usually helping initiate the drill. And so the way these will work, I'll try to have a recorded example. Some folks, I'm hoping to meet up with some folks at some point next week and record some of these. So it'll be easier to kind of put it all together, right? So there's the feeder role, the player role, and for this lesson, lesson 1, the feeder is going to be providing a right overhow, and it'll be warding with a variety of like what I would kind of refer to as hanging oxes, right? So as these would normally begin, you'd be standing, you'd be standing across from your partner, and you'd be sitting in the resting position. Someone would, the teacher, me, or someone else, would be like, "Achtung, come to attention," and then begrüßen, which begrüßen, to salute. So you'd salute your partner, come into the first position, go to scabbards, come to the long point, and then from the long point, what you're going to do. If you're the feeder, so this is, again, the feeder role, you're going to go from the long point, and you're going to raise your sword into Vomtag, and then you're going to cut right overhow. Right? So cut right overhow. That's our first. That's our first piece. Now, from here, your opponent would be warding this with left flug. So it's like, I've struck at you, bam, and like I've struck and to my opponent's left side, and they're going to ward with left flug, right? So from here, the player, and so from here in the game version, the paired version of this, your opponent or your partner would be striking a left overhow. So my opponent would be striking back towards my right side. So I've cut here. My opponent is going to return a cut here. In that case, what I am going to do is I'm going to step backwards, and this is kind of, I like to kind of refer to it as a hanging ox on the I believe outside line. So it's going to be, so the idea is this: instead of ox, like wording with ox here, I still want you to kind of have your hands in that position for it to be a left ox, but I want it kind of crossing to the right. Yep. And you'll see why in just a second. Well, it'll make more sense in a second, right? So far, what we've done is we've come from Vomtag, we've cut right overhow, and then step backwards to kind of into this hanging ox. And then from here, what we're going to do is step forward with a right overhow, and then back into a lower, what I would say actually hanging flug. Still, your hands are on the left hand, mostly on the left hand side, but it's going to be a low flug, like a hanging here, right? And from here, you just continue again, right? Come to Vomtag, step forward. Oh, just bumped my wall. Sorry, everybody. Right overhow, hanging. Right overhow, low hanging. Overhow, high hanging. Overhow, low hanging. Right? And this step backwards is actually quite important in this drill. Partially because when you're fencing, these are all techniques you can use for fencing. You want to make sure you're always moving and not staying in place. It's also, once we start doing this in pairs, we can start adding more types of footwork. But also because, as you'll see now, when we do the opposite roll, you'll see how the cut has changed and why we have to go low. But anyway, we're going to do the feet. Let's do this feeder part one more time, just so we understand what's happening. All right. So everyone start in the long point. Raise the Vomtag, cut right overhow, step back, and as you're stepping back into that hanging, making sure that sword is out, cut right overhow, backwards to a low hanging, cut right overhow, backwards into a high hanging, cut right overhow, backwards into a low hanging. Back into the long point, to scabbards, first position, resting position. All right, so that's the first one. I know we did that. That's something very similar to what we did a couple weeks ago. So what we're going to do now is we're going to learn the second part, okay? So this is something that you can do, again, as a practice. You would go through the first, the feeder part piece by piece, and then you would perform the player part. So the idea is that people are alternating turns with the chunks. I'll post a photo of, I'll post this list for everyone, so it's a little easier to scan when you read it. So for the player part, let's say we've saluted in. What you're going to do is you're from this long point. You know, we're going to begin the same way. We're going to salute, first position, and in. Now your opponent is striking right overhow, so that means the sword is going to be coming. Yeah. So what you're going to do is parry with high left fluke, right? And then you're going to cut left overhow. Right? Then back the ward with left fluke, because remember, there's a second overhow, right overhow. So left fluke, and from here, unterhow. Right? Back. All right, so let's do that again. So from the long point, you step back the parry with fluke. You step forward, left overhow. Back the parry with left fluke. Cut, left unterhow. And back. One more time. So from the long point, backwards the parry with left fluke. Forward, left overhow. Left fluke. Left unterhow. All right. Back to long point. All right. So now, so those are the two rolls. Now what we can do is let's play them all the way through. Okay. So we're going to do the player part, and then after we've completed the, we're going to do the feeder part, and then we're going to do the player part. I really wish they'd let me do like superimposed graphics. It'd be like all Minority Report sliding stuff around. And it'd just be very cool. A little picture-in-picture example, right? All right. So let's start with the long point. Now, first we're going to do the feeder roll. So we're going to go to Vomtog. We're going to step forward with our right overhow. Backwards with our hanging. Strike right overhow again. Low hanging. Now we're going to switch rolls. All right. Now from here, I've parried that unterhow. Remember we did that unterhow? So now the people reverse roles. So now I am going to block the overhow that's coming in, right? So I would be taking a step backwards. I've run into a wall here. Please try not to do that. Situational awareness, right? Now we would move from this hanging to parrying on our left side, right? From here. So parry from this left fluke, we strike left overhow. We step back toward and left fluke. Strike left unterhow. From here, we would be switching roles, right? We struck this left unterhow. We would come up to Vomtog, strike right overhow. Now, back to our hanging. Right overhow again. Low hanging. What do we do from here? Fluke. Left overhow. Fluke. Unterhow. And then from there, this drill can it can go on infinite time. So what I'd like everyone to do Does anyone have any questions? Hit the little hand raise button, or yes or no. Does everyone have this down to a certain degree? If I read it off, could because I'd like to kind of watch everyone do it. If I read it off, can everyone kind of follow along? Yeah. All right. Let me just grab my notebook. Okay, I'm going to be off camera for just a second as I try to watch everybody. Okay. All right. Okay, so everyone, if you could, into oh, okay. Hold for visitor. Okay. All right, so everyone into the long point, please. We're going to be first doing lesson 1, drill set 1, lesson 1. All right, so everyone into the Vomtog. Hi, Vomtog. Cut right Oberhow. Now we're going to ward with our hanging. Hi. Yep. Good. Cut right Oberhow. And then ward hanging flug. Good. Okay. All right. Now we're going to, all right, everyone reset to long point. We're going to do that again. All right. From long point to Vomtog. Right Oberhow. Hanging ox. Good. Right Oberhow. Hanging flug. Good. All right, reset to long point. We're going to do it faster. We're try to make it continuous. Vomtag. Right Oberhow. Hanging ox. Right Oberhow. Hanging flug. Good. Reset to long point. And Vomtag. Right Oberhow. Hanging ox. Right Oberhow. Hanging flug. Good. Okay, reset to long point. We're going to now do the player parts. And so the first thing we're going to do is from long point, we're going to ward left flug. Cut left Oberhow. Ward left flug. Cut left Unterhow. Good. It all looks really good. All right, let's reset to long point. We're going to do that same. We're going to do the player roll again. We're going to ward left flug. Left Oberhow. Left flug. Left Unterhow. Reset. Sehr gut. Okay. Now let's do, does that feel good? It's looking good. It's looking really, really good. So now let's do all of them together, yeah? Let's see. All right, so lesson 1, everyone in the resting position. Resting position. All right. Salute to first position. Into scabbards. To long point. Now to Vomtog. Cut right Oberhow. Ward hanging ox. Right Oberhow. Hanging flug. Now from here, left flug. Left Oberhow. Left flug. Left Unterhow. Fantastic. And back to long point. Good, good. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that again. Okay. From the long point to Vomtog. Right Oberhow. Outside hanging ox. Right Oberhow. Hanging Flug. Left Flug Ward. Left Oberhau. Left Flug. Left Unterhau. Great. Good. All right. So it's just about 8 o'clock. And classes. So this is a drill. I'll post this in the Discord and on my Facebook. I have to make a PDF of it, otherwise I just shoot it right here. Um, so people can practice this. I think this is a really good drill, and especially when we kind of start applying all the mindfulness practice we've been talking about in the past few weeks. What I wanted to do now was kind of open up to do a little Q&A if anyone has any questions about anything we've covered this week. So we can kind of sort that out. If you have questions, I'm sure other people do too. If not, does anyone have any questions? Hit the little hand raise button or wave at me and unmute. No? Are we okay? Are we good? All right, give me a thumbs up if you're good and have no questions. Oh, Katie. Okay, thumbs up. Cool. All right. So what we're going to do, like I said, I'll post this stuff, this thing, and I'm hoping this week to take a video of it, what it looks like when with actual humans. Oh my God, remember humans? Doing these drills together. And next week we will review this one, and we will do the second lesson. And you'll see one thing that you'll see is that each one of these lessons covers both cutting and parrying the primary cuts. So while this is very kind of intermediate fencing material, it's really good reflexes to start building for fencing itself, especially because it focuses a lot on strengthening the the high wards. I know this is something Leanne and I had kind of briefly chatted about, and some other folks have been interested in kind of improving the warding, and these all kind of fit into are all kind of build up to Obsetsens. They are really setting these particular ones are Nach und Vor, someone or Vor and Nach, kind of in that back and forth kind of moments. Or the kind of exchanges. Next week we might, if we have time, we'll talk about the distances and timing and how all this kind of fits together. That's class for today. I encourage you to take the next half hour to practice what we did, just at your own pace. And for those who are on the Teachable, this class is going to be posted there very soon, as part of that kind of that whole rollout. And let's see what else. And for those of you who are on the Discord channel, movie night it's going to be starting around 8:30-ish, maybe a little later, depends on how long it takes me to get set up. Tonight's movie is the 70s sci-fi classic Alien. There's a bunch of folks who haven't seen it before, and this is like the 5th time I've shown people who haven't seen the movie, and I cannot wait to experience the reactions. There's a little pre-show, so it should be good. I hope everyone's doing okay. Always feel like you can reach out to me over the social medias or email, phone, Discord, etc., etc. I look forward to these every week. It helps me keep up with everything, and I hope it's helping you too. Thank you for joining, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.